Imagine being swallowed whole by a wall of green, where every sound is a threat and every shadow is a predator. In 1981, Yossi Ginsberg didn't have to imagine it. He lived it. It started as the ultimate adventure. Yossi, a young Israeli traveler, headed into the heart of the Bolivian Amazon with 3 other men. They were looking for gold and lost indigenous villages. But the jungle doesn't care about your plans. After weeks of hiking, the group began to fall apart. Tensions rose, and they decided to split up. Yossi and his friend Kevin chose to build a raft and sail down the Tucci River. It seemed like a shortcut, but it turned into a death trap. They hit massive rapids, and the raft smashed into a rock. Kevin managed to swim to shore, but Yossi was swept away by the raging current. He was tossed over a waterfall and carried miles downstream. When he finally dragged himself onto the muddy bank, he was completely alone. He had no food, no equipment, and no idea where he was. He was standing in the middle of the largest rainforest on Earth, and nobody was coming to save him. For the next 3 weeks, Yossi's life became a cinematic nightmare. He survived on wild fruit and raw bird eggs he found in nests. But the jungle was hunting him back. One night, he woke up to find a jaguar circling him. He didn't have a weapon, so he used a can of mosquito spray and a lighter to create a makeshift flamethrower, scaring the massive cat away at the last second. The threats weren't just big animals. Giant red ants bit his skin until it bled. Tropical storms soaked him to the bone every night, leaving him shivering and unable to sleep. At one point, he stepped into a swamp and began to sink. He struggled for hours, slowly pulling himself out of the muck, convinced he was going to be buried alive in the mud. His body was falling apart. His feet were rotting from the constant moisture, the skin peeling off in bloody chunks. He was starving, exhausted, and starting to lose his mind. He even began to hallucinate a woman walking with him, talking to her just to keep his spirits up. He was at the very edge of death. On day 21, Yossi was lying in the mud, too weak to even lift his head. He had given up. Then he heard a faint sound. A motor. He thought it was another trick of his mind. But the sound grew louder. He dragged himself toward the water's edge, and there, through the trees, he saw it, a small boat. And on that boat was Kevin. Yossi had lost nearly 30 pounds. He was covered in sores, parasites, and infections. But he was alive. It remains one of the most incredible survival stories ever told. A man who walked into the green hell and, against every possible odd, found his way back out. But the miracle of Yossi's rescue is shadowed by a chilling mystery that remains unsolved to this day. Remember the group split up? While Yossi and Kevin took to the river, the other 2 men, Marcus and Carl, decided to hike back through the dense forest. They believed walking was safer than the unpredictable currents of the Tucci. They were wrong. After recovering enough strength, Kevin and Yossi tried to find their friends. Several search missions were launched. They combed the jungle for weeks, desperate for any sign. A footprint, a piece of clothing, the ashes of a fire. But the Amazon had swallowed them whole. Marcus and Carl were never seen again. To this day, not a single trace of them has ever been found. Carl, the mysterious guide who had convinced them to enter the jungle in the first place, turned out to be a criminal wanted by Interpol. Whether he led Marcus to his death or if they both succumbed to the elements remains a dark secret buried beneath the canopy. Their disappearance serves as a haunting reminder of just how close Yossi came to becoming a ghost himself. Yossi's recovery was a grueling journey in itself. He spent 3 months in a hospital in La Paz, his body fighting off severe malnutrition and infections that nearly cost him his limbs. He had stared into the abyss of human fragility, discovering that civilization is just a thin veneer protecting us from the raw, indifferent power of nature. Yet, perhaps the most shocking part of this story isn't the survival or the tragedy, but what happened a decade later. Most people would never dream of stepping foot in that jungle again. But in 1993, Yossi returned. He didn't go back to conquer the wild, he went back to save it. He returned to the Tucci River Valley, the very place that had tortured him, and reconnected with the indigenous people who had helped save him. The villagers of San Jose de Uchupiamonas were struggling, their land threatened by logging and exploitation. Yossi lived among them for 3 years, helping them build the Kalalan ecolodge. It became a sustainable model that allowed the tribe to protect their ancestral lands while benefiting from tourism. The green hell that had tried to kill him became a place of healing and preservation. Yossi Ginsberg's story was eventually immortalized in his book, Jungle, and later adapted into a film starring Daniel Radcliffe. But beyond the Hollywood screen, the real lesson lies in the silence of the forest. It is a testament to the idea that we are not the masters of this planet, merely guests. Yossi survived not because he fought the jungle, but because he endured it long enough for humanity to pull him back. Today, if you travel down the Tucci River, the water still rushes with the same deadly force, and the jaguar still stalks the shadows. The jungle hasn't changed. It is still a place of immense beauty and terrifying power, waiting for the next adventurer to test their luck. Yossi made it out, but the Amazon always demands a price. For him, it was his innocence. For Marcus and Carl, it was everything.
Almost gone.